Good morning to all of you, and welcome again to the first session, the first lecture sessions of this course. And I presume that you know what is the meaning of say the acronym called GIAN, right? Okay. Now in the introductory session, as well as the lecture materials which we have which I have given to all of you, you will find there are the certain topics we have mentioned. In fact, in the GIAN course, the leaflet, a number of topics we have mentioned, and along with what is the purpose, specific purpose of organizing such a course, what are the specific objectives, and to what extent you will be benefited, right? Now, so the course, the name is, so in this the next 15 to 20 minutes of time, I will be just giving you the certain the characteristic features. I will just highlight certain characteristic features of this program. As you may be knowing that in the on environmental management, there are hundreds of the courses being offered at any point in time. Not only in our country, it's a hot topic of discussion. So not only in academic circles, also in the industrial circles. Okay, this course is being offered, but there could be it's a very complex issues, and almost all the entities are involved, one way or other, directly or indirectly. So there could be several perspectives. Now we have designed the course from a specific perspective. So that's why the background of the course or the overview you must be aware of. You may have several queries. And as you may be knowing, on environmental issues, a child may have several queries. We may not have any answer. Getting my point? So now, as the time is limited, we must restrict ourselves to few important issues. Is it okay? And definitely on those issues, you may have questions, and you are freely express your views. Is it okay? Now the certain points I want to highlight, like India is well on course to increasing the share of manufacturing sector to 25% of GDP from the existing 17%, and our country is now the third or the fourth largest economy of the world, right? So that is our status. Now the question is, when you refer to the role of manufacturing sectors in creation of GDPs for a country, for many years, 7 or 8 industrialist countries of the world, their the contribution of the manufacturing sectors, I have all the data with us, okay, and the contribution of the manufacturing sector to the GDP is around hovering between 60 to 80%. And today, those industrialist countries, their share is getting down and down. So through two master players over here, one is China, second one is the India. So they are taking the center stage. Is it okay? Now at this point in time, we should be aware of the sustainability of our programs, of our manufacturing systems. Then the effect will be the long lasting. Getting my point? When the industrial revolution started in 1780 in UK, there was a different context. Okay, those factory systems were totally different, and nobody used to bother about, is it okay, one dominant force. He used to be the single player in the entire system. Gone are those days. Now there are many players, and everybody's interest you must take into account. It's not that just I create an economic system and I will dominate. No, right? So, obviously, you have to make it sustainability, make it your production system sustainable. So, the environmental issues you must consider. Second important issue is the financial performance. If I ask you a question, what is the purpose of creating an organization? There are two purposes. One is make money, and the second purpose is, you must go for process improvement. If you do not bother about the process improvement constantly, you will be treated as a trader, right? Not as an industrialist or the capitalist. And definitely, as I have been telling you, there is a penny wise pound foolish situation. Today you will be winner, tomorrow you will be losing. Is it okay? This is the situation. So, the sustainable system you have to create. Emphasis is on zero defect, zero effect. The zero defects program introduced in 1961 December, Passing Missile Project, US Department of Defense, 1961. But now definitely go for zero defect, but zero effect. Is it okay? So, as soon as you say zero effect, so you must bring in the concepts of environmental management. Now, these demands for designing and operating entire manufacturing supply network, not only the factory systems, the inbound logistics, outbound logistics must be included, and you must include several players that comprises both original equipment manufacturers, OEMs, and small and medium size enterprises in a sustainable way. The next important point, the main aim of this grand program is to expose the participants on the environmental performance measurement of manufacturing supply chain and suggest improvement measures. The participants are likely to take away knowledge on supply chain characteristics of Indian manufacturing sector, issues and challenges along with criteria for environmental performance measurement. So, you will come to know that how to create or how to implement an environmental performance management systems or the measurement and evaluation system for your own plant, for your own department. For there could be different units of analysis. Academics with proven knowledge, industrial experience and demonstrable ability in teaching, consulting, research and training in the field of sustainable production management and related areas will handle sessions as we have been highlighting and all, and case based real life problem solving exercise in the training program. So, these are the objectives. There are say the 4 specific objectives to enable participants to understand and critically evaluate environmental performance of manufacturing systems and environmental performance concept and issues. And we'll create such or we'll propose such an environmental management systems in such a way that you can relate your financial performance with environmental performance. Your financial performance could be excellent, but you don't bother about the environmental performance. Then it may so happen that you cannot sustain with your financial performance. There are many such cases throughout the world. To enable participants to understand and apply contemporary approaches, that means the state of the art tools and techniques to measure environmental performance measurement of manufacturing systems. Now, in any environmental management systems, for that matter, not only for environment, say the quality management systems, okay, or say sustainability measurement systems, you have 6 issues involved. The first issue is awareness. The second issue is the measurement. Third issue is evaluation. Fourth issue is the planning. And then the fifth issue is the improvement, right? And the last issue is the control. The control is everywhere. If you lose control, the whole system will fall apart. To enable participants to apply their emerging understanding to both specific cases and emerging new literature in the topic area, providing exposure to practical problems and their solutions through case studies and live projects. Okay, so these are the issues Now, the course details we have already given, so please go through, like issues and challenges of Indian manufacturing supply chain, design and operations, environmental practices and performance of manufacturing systems, developing environmental performance measurement model for specific case. Particularly, we will be highlighting that the entire framework is a total systems view you must have. As I have been telling you, that you must not be biased with a single discipline. You love your discipline definitely, but never you assume. It's not, that Noam Chomsky has mentioned. Have you heard about Noam Chomsky? He says that, as an engineer, we have most of the time, we have a very tunnel vision. Okay. We look at a particular object or a particular phenomenon from your own perspective only. Is it okay? So you cannot think 1 inch this side or 1 inch on the other side. Okay. So this engineering, say the mindset typical has created a lot of problems for many, many organizations. Getting my point. And as a doctor's profession, he knows that his knowledge is limited. One patient may be fully treated, the other patient with the same symptoms, your hands are up. Okay. He goes to the blue, you're helpless. So all the time he knows that his knowledge is limited. Whereas the engineering perspective sometimes, it's very, what you can say, the biased perspective. I know mechanical engineering, I know everything. And from the mechanical engineering point of view, I try to explain all sorts of phenomena. Getting my point. So this, the great, the mind, Noam Chomsky has mentioned, okay, many a time. Discussions on the environmental performance measurement of Indian manufacturing organization supply chain and developing action plans for each participants. That means, you will find, they will say, this is the problem, this you should do. But the main focus is how to implement. A child may ask you, simple, sir, you tell me what is to be done, right? Like we talk about the Ganga action plan. The Ganga is getting polluted. Okay, many persons, okay, are really concerned, fine. But then it will be asked, sir, you are highlighting the problems. Can you just suggest what is to be done? And then the problem comes. Getting my point. So we will be highlighting on implementation aspects also. So this is the lecture sessions we have right now. Okay, and if you go through all these topics, you will find that our primary purpose is to get a total, the view of the problem. Is it okay? That means when you complete this program and you say that yes, I have attended these programs, I have participated in these programs. So when you complete this program, the main purpose is, or we assume that now you'll have a total the view of the problem. You must not be biased, and you will come to know that what are the challenges, what are the current challenges, what are the tools and techniques you have to implement, what are the implementation issues. Is it okay? So you remain, normally what happens with this exposure, when you go out with this knowledge, you become silent, you become devoted to a particular cause. Okay, so thank you so much. So this is the exposure, and we hope that you will have, and when you complete this exercise, you will have a totally different mind, right? So thank you so much, and now our expert in the next 2 sessions will be taken by Professor Day, right? And these 2 sessions will be on supply chain performance as well as environmental performance of manufacturing systems. Is it okay? So do you have any other queries? What we do normally, say we have mentioned that these are the contents, these are the objectives. Okay. Now you are attending this particular program, okay, and you expect something, isn't it? What is your expectation? So can you highlight? Anyway, so we'll definitely discuss with you. So right at this point in time, I can ask you, what do you expect from this course? Getting my point. So keep in mind, and you can write it down and learn later on. It will be very nice. So my suggestion is everyone should take a piece of paper and you just write it down. Whatever comes to your mind, this is my expectation. Are you getting my point? And hand over these papers to us, and then we'll definitely, try to, offer this program in such a way that your expectation gets fulfilled. Thank you so much. Okay.
Having tea in between, I guess, before lunch. Am I right or wrong? If you like to really take a break, just tell me. But what will happen, as I told that I will not be, my name is Prashant. I am Professor of Operations Management, Aston Business School. Aston Business School is in Birmingham, which is the middle part of Britain. And by training, I am an engineer. I did study in Jadavpur University in long back in 85, and my current experience is in project and supply chain management. Okay, as you know that project management is conversion of the concept to reality. Am I right? Okay, so you concept, get idea and convert them to a reality. That's project management. And what is supply chain management? Supply chain management is the management of three things: material flow, information flow, and the finance, money flow. So you manage these three things from supplier to end customers. So that's the thing. So I combine these two concepts together to make the business happen. As I told that I born in India and studied in Jadavpur University, mechanical engineering, graduated in 1985, and I did masters from Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok in industrial engineering, okay, and PhD again from Jadavpur University. I worked in Indian Oil just after my first degree for 13 years before moving to academia. And my main experience being in Indian Oil was in oil pipeline design and implementation, project planning. So I have great experience in working in India. So although I am currently working in Britain and more than 15 years, but I have good experience of Indian society. Okay, I studied here, born and brought up here, as well as I have worked here. Okay, I will explain that I do loads of project in India, and I will give you some flavor of the projects, and some of the projects I would be quite explicit as we proceed. Okay, I already explained about that. My first academic endeavor was with University of West Indies. How many of you know about West Indies other than cricket? We all know that West Indies is known for cricket. Perhaps none of you. As before going to University of West Indies in Barbados, I didn't know either much about Caribbean, but it's really a nice place. Okay, not only nice place for living, for tourism, and but also for work. Okay, very good work culture, very good infrastructure, and their per capita income is much higher than us. Okay, and their infrastructure is much better than India. I was totally surprised. Okay, so this is a small country, only 90 square mile. Okay, only 260,000 population, but very clean virgin island. Okay, loads of resources as well. So many Indians live there, including many Indian doctors. Okay, there are economists and people like us. So I enjoyed being there. I was there for 5 years, and still I am connected to Barbados, Trinidad, and that. I am external examiner of University of West Indies in Trinidad, and I would be visiting just after this visit. I will return to the UK, stay there for a week, and then I am traveling for a week. and doing a similar type of workshop, but not with the academics, but with the industry people, with the Chamber of Commerce there, and talking about the sustainability of small and medium sized companies. So, it is interesting to be across the world and sharing and transferring and learning as well. Okay. So, one of my objective here to deliver this program is not only to really disseminating what I know, okay, but also taking the knowledge from you, and you are the upcoming resources for India, and how you are really thinking about the environmental issues. What are your understanding? What do you think or perceive the issues and challenges that needs to be really addressed? Okay. And you might be more experienced than me in the subject, being in India. I am out of the India since early 2000. Early 2000 I moved to University of West Indies, spent there for 5 years, and then from 2004 onwards I am with Aston University in Birmingham. So, some of the my research interest is including healthcare management. Okay. And in Britain we do lots of work which are related to the industry. It's not that we develop our expertise in the subject, but the application of the subject. We call in the UK academia impact. How your research impact the society, that is very important part of it. So, one of my project is related to implementing electronic prescribing and medicine administration in the hospital. Is a children's hospital, the picture that you could really see, and this has a history, because you might be knowing Malala Yousaf, who is the Nobel laureate from Pakistan. Okay. She got treated here and she got life in this hospital. So, this hospital is really very famous. Okay, they have state of art technology, one of the best children hospital of the world. Okay, so you can well see that academics are helping them to implement electronic prescribing and medicine administration, okay, in order to reduce pharmaceutical error as well as the enhancing the patient satisfaction. Okay. So, I am not really discussing much of that, but giving you perspective that how research can contribute in a real life. One of my interest is waste management, okay, mainly waste biomass to energy conversion. I would share some of my research with you. Okay. We have European Bio Research Institute based at Aston, where we give suggestion, develop plan, give, suggest technological and the business solution to the industry. Okay. So, we do supply chain modeling for them, and we have formed a multidisciplinary endeavor so as to really contribute there. And this is one of the project that we have recently accomplished in Rajasthan, in a Malunga village in Jodhpur. Okay. Aston University and IIT Delhi work together to accomplish this project. It uses agro waste, and through thermal conversion it produces energy, okay, and which goes to the rural part of the Indian industry. And because most of the problem is related to the energy. Okay. One of the major issues of Indian villages are mass migration, because although there is resources, but they are not really properly managed, or that couldn't be really properly managed because of the lack of energy system. Okay. India is a big country. So, getting power everywhere is very expensive, not economically feasible. But if you could have using the local agro waste and convert them to the energy in an economical way, okay, you have a better make the agro industry better. Okay. So, that is the thing, and again I will give you a proper demonstration of the application of it as a part of the circular economy, how you utilize the agro waste to energy. So, you can well see these type of problems are related to a sort of multidisciplinary approach. You need to really have a multidisciplinary approach to deal with it. No one discipline can resolve the problem. Okay, you need to really understand the societal issue. Okay, so you need to understand the overall impact on that. Business modeling is very important alongside the technological issues. Okay, the calorific value of the agro waste is lower. How to really make it energy efficient? If you are using a reactor or the turbine, what is the problem of the thermal conversion? Okay, so that sort of thing needs to be really looked at. Here we looked into a combined solar and the biomass, these two things together. Okay, so that you don't get solar power always, although India fortunately has loads of solar resources, but the biomass, that which is local waste, that could be really used as well. So we will discuss about that. The other things, you all might be aware that in this region we are fortunate that we do not have the stubble burning problem much. But if you look into northern part of India, and this problem is there in Brazil, in Mexico, in Caribbean, they burn something else, but this problem is there all across the world. So we dealt with it in 3 villages in Punjab. Okay. Again with mainly with IIT Ropar, IIT Delhi and ISB Mohali, okay, business school, and the Aston University, Aston Business School. We developed a demonstration unit, mobile unit, and we have stopped stubble burning in 3 villages. Okay, but this is drop in ocean. It needs to be really done. We all know that in the winter time there would be smog, fog. In Delhi, I lived in Delhi for 7 years. I know that pollution level, Delhi is one of the worst polluted city across the world. So we understand these are drop in ocean, but this is a little contribution that helps. Okay, so I will share that also in the due course, that how we have done it and that, and then you can share and you can think of what type of project that could really give better impact. Okay, so let us get into the topic, and what you would be doing, working on, is understanding the characteristics of small and medium size, characteristics of supply chain of small and medium size enterprises. I told you before that why we are interested to concentrate on small and medium size enterprises. Again I repeat, because big OEM requires to submit their sustainability report, okay, to the policymaker. So they adhere to some norms, some regulations, but what happened to the first tier, second tier, third tier, fourth tier suppliers? They don't need to. Sometimes if the OEM required to submit their sustainability report, taking the first tier supplier also into consideration, then the first tier supplier become environment friendly, but not the second tier. But there are numerous manufacturing companies in the supply chain. I will give you a quick perspective. We'll reiterate that in the due course. In India, there are 48 million SMEs, okay, and there are many in manufacturing. So if you look into the contribution of SMEs contribution in the GDP is phenomenal. Okay, 90% of the total business across the world done by the SMEs. Okay, 50% of the world population work in SMEs. Okay, as I told that close to 50 million SMEs are there in India, and they employ 40% of the Indian workforce. Okay, so these statistics are there. This is a bit of staggering statistics. Actual figures are really not available in India, and I have seen that how we define SMEs in India. 250 employees. This definition is to my knowledge across the world. So if it is less than 250 employees, they have been called as small and medium sized enterprises. Okay, but the turnover varies from country to country. 50 million euros for EU companies, 50 million pound for the UK, and I've seen quickly in Google, it says that it starts from the 25 lakhs rupees till few crores, I think 50 crores, okay, like that. If you convert the pound to that, you will get that similar figure. Okay, but this is a bit staggering figures. It might really vary. Okay, the definition might vary to the industry, locations, and that. But SME is coming in a big way because 70% pollution is being contributed collectively by SMEs. This is really an alarming figure, and there is a very less control. SMEs do not require to submit sustainability report. Okay, and our research has said that unless they have been pressurized by the policymaker or their customers, they are not environment friendly. You can't blame them because they require to really make a trade-off. We discussed in the morning the trade-off. Okay, so they try to really give more emphasis on the economic criteria than the environmental criteria. But as a citizen, we have a role to really contribute. But this is coming when everybody, this would be really been given weightage, when OEM will tell that they would be doing business if a company has ISO 14000, which is the environmental standard for better environmental performance, then they will be forced to really do that, like the way ISO 9000 have been imposed. Now you will find hardly any company without ISO 9000. Okay, and those who are doing business with the foreign companies, they need to really have. Okay, so definitely ISO 14000 has become norms for the companies who are doing export. So these are the things really happening. Okay, this is part and parcel of this thing. Okay, so with that, what we will try to really understand that what is supply chain. Okay, there is a bit of misunderstanding of the definition of the supply chain itself. Okay, so sometimes supply chain is being known as supplier management, because supply is always upstream activities, isn't it? But supply chain actually comprise of every aspect of the business, isn't it? It has customer, it has supplier, and it has the internal operation. So we, the supply chain people, we say supply chain is everything within the business. Whatever you are doing within an organization, it could be manufacturing, process, construction, that it is supply chain. Okay, so supply chain is a major paradigm of today's business, and it is present everywhere. Okay, it is in business, definitely we know. It is in public sector. I have used the national health services, so you can say any type of health services across India. Okay, and it is there in voluntary sector, army, even in the relief operations, isn't it? You think of where the supply chain is not there. That means you cannot really have a supply chain with customers, with distributor, with manufacturer, and the supplier. In every system this is present. So whatever we deal with is a supply chain issue. And what is the main principle of the supply chain? That means there are stakeholders. We need to really organize ourselves. How do we really satisfy the customers in a minimum cost? So that's the trade-off we are doing. Now we have a third dimension today, which is the environmental factor, which are the social factor that we need to really model it. So what we will look at the first half, that what are the characteristics of the supply chain? That means what is there, how the procurement is happening, how the upstream activities are happening, how the downstream activities are happening, how we are addressing the customer's need. Okay, how are we manufacturing it, whether we are using third party, whether it is beneficial, how do we really decide that? Okay, so that sort of things we try to really understand. So major paradigm shift of today's business is working together. So think of working in silos and working together. Okay, so what happened? Why we all have experience in buying goods online, isn't it? And what happened? Online system. So there is a Amazon.com. What they do? They don't manufacture anything. They are a virtual hub. Okay, very virtual. Okay, eBay, as for example, Alibaba in China, they are all nothing but a virtual network. Okay, they make it happen. So what they are doing it through their information system, they are integrating customer, manufacturer, supplier. That's the work they are doing, and they are bringing efficiency in the system. That means the supply chain cost has reduced, and what have they done? They have enhanced the satisfaction of the customers in all dimensions, product level, okay, delivery time, returnability, rate of innovation, etc., etc. So that is why the supply chain is really working. So if you look at all the companies, those who have really come up today, Amazon, Dell, okay, newer companies, okay, other companies, say new retailer, Walmart, how have they really done it? Is not through their technological innovation within the product, or rather not only that, but their supply chain innovation. So there is a loads of innovation, through the business processes. Okay, one of the professors, I forgot who mentioned that we need to really emphasize on the process, understand the process through which we manufacture, through which we deliver the product, through which we get the supplies thing. So the first step of understanding the supply chain is understanding the supply chain first, is the mapping the supply chain part of it. Okay. So this is the paradigm shift of today's business. How do we really work together? Okay. So similar to the economic principle, demand supply balance, we need to really understand in supply chain how do we really make the synergy between demand and supply. That is very important aspect. We need to really be understanding it. Okay. Demand comes from customers and supply comes from the manufacturer, distributor, supplier, okay, whoever is there in the upstream side. So we need to really understand that aspect. So we have to develop a understanding on how do we analyze that in order to find out whether they are okay. When you are analyzing a operating business, which is happening now, and while you are starting your business, if you are a startup, then how do you design that supply chain so as to really have a right balance between your demand and supply. And in supply chain, we would learn that what are the terminology that we use in order to understand this part. So supply chain is not a very new things, although it is a new paradigm, but it is a old wine in new bottle. Okay, but this new bottle is really a new bottle. So we need to really understand what are the innovation here that help us to really not only understand how we do the business, but also really think progressively. So if you think of while we transform organization, how do we really transform it? I mentioned that supply chain management is the management of information also. So you can see that we say industry, some of you are working in industry 4.0, maybe blockchain, IoT and all sort of newer technology. How this and ERP, a couple of years before, almost all the big companies have implemented ERP. How ERP helped them to develop a better integration across the stakeholder, real time information, okay, real time information. Even what we are really talking, it could be really live to reach into many people. You may not require to really come over here, and I may not require to really come here. I can be there in Britain and talking to you, okay, although there will be difference in the time zone, but we are doing loads of distance education using that. So this is the innovation that company has adopted very well and have achieved their supply demand balance. Okay. So this is a very simple picture of how the supply chain really work. Let's forget about the example that I have used here of a packet of detergent which is being sold or being purchased by our customers from a retail. But let us pick up something that we can really see around, say clothes, what we are wearing. So, if we try to really look at the product breakdown structure of that clothes, so there are so many things, and it has come from cotton, say, okay. So that is produced from agricultural input. So there is a huge agriculture supply chain which is producing cotton, and then cotton is converted to yarn, and this yarn would be taken up by some other companies, and then it has been converted to clothes, and the designer is giving input to that, okay. And then color and other things also would be contributed by some other companies, threads, okay, buttons, everything is coming from somewhere else, and then somebody is wearing it. Now, what is happening after that? So this will be recirculated. Maybe that some of our clothes would be going to most of the cases, say 50% or 70%, depending on which country you belong to, it would be recycled. Okay, reuse, recycle, and that sort of things. So there is a closed loop supply chain here, and perhaps the cotton is totally regenerative. Okay, doesn't go to landfill, but it still says in the UK, more than 30% of the clothes go to landfill, which is quite unfortunate. Okay. So although some of the most of the cottons are biologically degradable, but if there is a polythene, if there is a plastic component, there may not be. So we need to really think of, and we need to really model it. We need to understand what are the issues and challenges that, and how many people are really producing it. So that's the challenge we have. Okay. So again, going back to the basic understanding of the supply chain. So if you are a supply chain manager, you are managing information, product, and money flow to and from supplier customers, and it could be in a circular form. That's as we discuss. Okay. So we need to really think of, again I repeat, not a linear fashion, circular fashion. So one of the major issues in today's supply chain is the waste management. Okay. I'm saying it from my experience, not only working in India, but also in the UK and other country, including China, Thailand, Southeast Asian country, and Europe, like Germany, France. So everybody has their problem, but it depends that how much we recycle, how percentage is being circulated. Okay, how much awareness we have. Okay, but we need to really handle that all through the supply chain. Okay, I will not really keep on talking about almost all the slides. I have given the material for you to quickly run through, and some of the slides have been taken from Sunil Chopra's book. Okay, but the thing is, reading a bit of textbook also could really help you in order to understand it, and but perhaps because you are mostly in the research active, I would suggest to read some of the academic paper. I have included some of my contribution, but it is not limited to that. Look into some of the academic contribution. They are easily understandable and have a bit of understanding. So if we quickly summarize, the aspect that I want to really let you know and perceive, although that is a bit known to you, is supply chain is covering every aspect of the business. Okay, downstream customers, upstream supplier, and within the system, manufacturer, third party suppliers, everybody included. So supply chain should be named as more supply network. So a simple pen that in your pocket have so many components and being contributed by so many companies. Okay, and it is really a miracle to see that how do we really get steel pen in say 10 rupees. It's very, very difficult to really produce that in 10 rupees unless you look into the scale economy, unless you have some innovation in the manufacturing process, unless you have supply chain integrated properly and real time delivery, reduction of inventory been taken really care, because technology is not really very, very complicated, okay, being proven all across, but how you economically produce it, that's the challenge. And now today we have to be environment friendly. So combining all those things made our life more complicated. Okay. So we understand that while we develop the economic model, we need to really understand that we get money from the end customers and there is a long supply chain in the upstream. So, they need to be really be given that money on a real time basis. So, increasingly companies are understanding that they need to really have more partners. Okay? Suppliers are not really connected through transactional procurement system, that means arm length relationship, through tendering process I mean. There should be a long term relationship. So, many OEM original equipment manufacturer like say Tata Motors and that, they are developing a long term relationship with few suppliers. Okay. So, Japanese system, okay, they adopt, they call it Kairatsu. So, there would be series of suppliers, because no point of really Jaguar Land Rover as for example has 4,000 suppliers, but they are in different tier. So, they would be developing a long term relationship maybe with 20, which is manageable. So, first tier supplier, but there is no long term relationship with the second and third tier. Okay. So, that is really coming up in supply chain. So, you get money from the end customers and then end customers money coming to the retailer, say Walmart as for example, for the bigger thing. Here also things are really coming up. So, that money needs to be really very quickly be given to the suppliers, otherwise the cash flow problem would be there. One of the major issues of the small and medium sized companies are the cash flow. So, they need to really have a better cash flow in order to do their business. So, that is the thing we discuss here. Okay. So, objective of the supply chain is to maximize the customer satisfaction, minimize the cost. So, we are not really getting into the environmental requirement, but always third dimension is environmental and social requirement. So, how do you really make the trade off and get your supply chain organized? So, that is the main purpose of it. Okay. So, these slides are talking about all these aspects, but main principle remains same, demand supply balance. Okay. And this environmental required environmental related demand comes from the policymakers, comes from the customers. Okay. But sometimes it is self motivated. We have seen from our research that corporate social responsibility comes from the motivation, internal motivation. Indian companies are quite friendly with the suppliers, sorry not suppliers, their own people. Okay. So, that has been looked at, and many small and medium sized companies, those who are progressing, they are progressing because they are taking care of their employees very well. So, this is fact, this is coming up. So, we need to really keep understanding it. So, quickly about another aspect, that because all of us are in the industrial and the manufacturing things, so we know the quantitative bit of it. So, our problem is to really how to make a decision, okay, in order to design a supply chain network for manufacturing a product, or if we are analyzing existing supply chain, what are the variables that we would be considering. Okay. So, that could be looked into through decision making framework. Okay. It could be in the strategic level, planning level and the operating level. Okay. So, what we need to really understand, what are the decisions that we have to really make while we design a supply chain, or we analyze a supply chain from a very strategic perspective. Okay. Like where we would be manufacturing it. Okay. Where do you manufacture it, where our factory would be located, okay. Where from our raw material will come, and who would be our customers, whose demand we are trying to really resolve, and it could really vary. Think of IIT Kharagpur. Okay. So, if we are sitting in an infrastructure, this infrastructure has been designed or it has been really evolved. So, this is the supply chain, where from the faculty will come, where from the student will come. Okay. So, this is very important part of it. So, where do you locate your facility, how many, what would be the number of students capacity, okay, how many faculty member you need, how many subject discipline it would be. So, any industry you pick up, you need to really think of this, and while you are analyzing that say strategic fit, demand supply balance, you need to really think of those. So, you need to model all the variables in the strategic level, and this if you go into the next level, okay, strategic decision is a bit of long lasting, and if you make it, you can't change it. So, it has a long implications on your performance. So, planning and policy would be a bit in between. Okay. So, a bit lower than the strategic one. Okay. It could be that how much inventory you would be keeping it, how much you would be ordering from which suppliers and your customers, okay, whether you would be developing long term relationship with the supplier or with the customers, and that could be a bit of planning decision. And operational decision would be more on day to day or weekly things. Okay. You have a pile of inventory, finished product inventory. So, you have a demand. So, which product will go how to from one destination to the customers. That sort of things might be in the operational things. There could be this could really vary depending on the industry you are working, okay, manufacturing setup you are in, on the process or services wherever you are. Okay, this could really vary, but as a analyst, you need to really understand that what are the variables you would be. If you are developing a mathematical model, your conceptual model should be very right first. So, these are the things that you need to really keep on how you develop your framework. Even in the we would learn in a sort of quite granular level that what sort of framework we are proposing for analyzing our supply chain. Okay, then we need to really think of that. So, my subsequent slides are related to that which I have discussed with you, which I will skip. Okay, but you could really give a quick reading to that. Okay, planning decision, supply chain operations. Okay. I have few examples that traditionally I use for my students of supply chain. I thought that okay, I will not really change it, but if you like to really be a bit more explorative, you could look into that what are those decisions in the strategic planning and operational level for those companies, but I won't expect you to really do it. I have a specific plan for you what you would be concentrating for say 15-20 minutes forming a group. Okay. So, two interesting point that you might be I am sure that you have known about it, but a bit of recap of better understanding of wrapping up the basic understanding of the supply chain is the supply chain processes, cycle view and the push pull view. Okay. What is cycle view? Cycle view is this one. Okay. So, all of you have experienced of visiting McDonald's, okay, KFCs and that means fast food. Okay. So, what happened in fast food industry? We go there, if we look the problem from the customer's perspective, we arrive in front of the front desk, and we see the menu, we decide ourselves being in the queue the what we are going to really get it quickly, we do not need much help, everything is displayed. We select the things, we tell the in the till and they just give input and you pay for the money and you get the product and you carry it, either you eat there or you carry it on. Okay, so, that is the process. So, that is called customer order cycle. So, there is a cycle where customers and the provider having an interactions and some specific purpose is being made. Okay. Somebody has designed it, that is why it is happening. Think of in the contrary, if you go to the restaurant, there is a totally different thing cycle, isn't it? Totally different. Somebody has designed it. It has pros, it has cons. What is the pros here? So, there is a parameter, what they say KFC or McDonald's say that you would be served not more than say 5 minutes. Okay. Say in 5 minutes on your arrival you get the thing, that is their standard. So, they like to really see that how many times they are able to really make that keep that standard. As for example, in national health services in the UK, because UK the health sector is public, okay. So there is very less privatized practice, but most of the citizen will take the public service like national health services. So what they say in A&E, within 10 minutes of arrival of any patient, they would be doing the triage. That means what happened, and within 4 hours a consultant will see you. These are the standard they have made. So you can say this is the customer order cycle. Okay, makes sense. So similarly, replenishment cycle, again let's go back to the McDonald's. So what happened, you will see that they do not have huge inventory at the front, very few, as per the order they are making it, to keep it fresh. Okay, that is their strategy. So they have a replenishment cycle. So manufacturing, somebody is doing some work inside, they are frying, they are assembling it and all sort of things. So there is another cycle, they are manufacturing it, making it ready, and again they are not really keeping it for long. Okay. And the procurement part, although then they are their raw material is being transported from the central warehouse, again 3-4 times in a day. You might have heard of 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven is the convenience stores across Southeast Asian country, and they sell their product by saying that 3 times you will get fresh food there in the convenience store, very less price compared to the high street. So that's the way their competitive strategy is, very, very important part of it. So you can analyze the supply chain through those cycles. So my question to you, whether you can, by looking into any supply chain of a company, okay, could you really identify those cycles? So if you do that, you would be not only be in a position to analyze their performance better, but also would be able to design it. So if you are an entrepreneur, you are trying to develop a new product or services. So how do you really design your customer order cycle? How do you design the replenishment cycle? How do you really manufacture it? How do you really get the procurement done? That then you know what is going on within the supply chain. Okay. So another aspect on this, these are all related to things that I have just discussed with you. This push-pull view. Okay. So now think of, you are visiting a retail. Okay, what happened? Somebody has kept material displayed, item displayed as per your need. They anticipated. So on anticipation of arrival of the customers, something has been really designed and kept it ready. Okay. So that is called push system. Okay. Now think of pull. What is pull? While we buy product via Amazon.com. Okay. That is push. Nothing has been kept ready. The system will start with the customer's order. So that is the push. So there is a change in philosophy of 2 types of supply chain. Now both the system has pros and cons. So how do you really analyze that? What are the pros and cons? If you think of a push, typical retail business, what is the pros of it? That you can keep the many items displayed in a very real time, in reality. Customers can touch, feel. So that is the advantage, and customer can decide which product they would be buying. Think of, you are buying a computer from a retail. Somebody will help you and explain and about the specification. You can make the decision within say 10-15 minutes, and you have your product. But what happened in the online system? Perhaps you could look at the thousands of things. It could be customized also. You can tell them that okay, you don't want that, but you need a combination. You can get that. But what is the cons on that? You have to wait for a couple of days to get it delivered, and you may not like it. Then you have to return it. But if you look into from the business perspective, the retail business have to have a lots of cash. But in the online system, the business is happening in customers' money, because whenever you are committing a purchase, you are paying for it. So cash flow is not a problem for the pull type of system, but cash flow is a major problem. And you need to really have a big infrastructure for the push retail business, but for online you do not need to. Okay. So, there are pros and cons of both the system. So, you need to decide at the beginning what way you would be doing your business. Dell decided to really do their business through online to start with. They continued that philosophy till 2007. After that, they found that they do not need to really customize much, okay, for the low cost computer. So, they started selling the low cost computer through retail, and but still the highly customized computer remains within the pull type of system. Okay. So, you can well see that how the supply chain decision has helped the companies to perform much better. So, they are much better compared to their competitor because of the supply chain principle. Okay. So, these are the good understanding of the supply chain principles, and again the subsequent slides are related to that. And another concept is looking into from the stakeholders perspective. Okay. In the downstream you look into the CRM, customer relationship management, upstream you look into the supply relationship management, and within the system you look into internal supply chain management system. Okay. So, that is the way you could go on and working. There are success and failure story. There are, I have included couple of international retailers and the manufacturer story. Okay, how have they achieved the supply chain performance, and they have outranked their competitors, but I would say keep it at the back seat for the time being, unless consented. And there are few questions that I have kept in order to for you to really reflect your understanding, but I think you would be better off if we take up a quick exercise. Okay, I will take another 5 minutes to explain exactly what I expect from you through this example. Okay, I picked up this company. This is Brinton Carpet. This is not an Indian company. This is West Midland based UK company, but I picked up this because they have manufacturing in Pune. Okay, they do loads of manufacturing, carpet manufacturing in Pune. Why they do that? Because they captured almost all the tender in India while all the airport got transformed. So, this is the picture of Delhi airport. Okay, can you make out? It's a Delhi airport. While you walk through the Delhi International Airport, you would be able to really see the carpet, and which is made by Brinton. Okay. So, I worked with Brinton company with a research project. We helped them to improve their quality system. So, I am quite aware of how they work, and as I told that in Pune they have manufacturing facility. All the design work of this carpet manufacturing company is done from India, because India is a cheap labor force. Okay, and India has talent. So, use that and they have done, they are currently doing all the design, and they are not the carpet manufacturer for this type of carpet. They do very commercial level, very high range carpet, okay, not for the domestic purpose. Okay, airport is a commercial and very sophisticated, and big casinos. Okay, they have huge investment. Okay, they are not SMEs. Their turnover was £100 million, okay, which has increased to over the period. While I started working, it was 100, but subsequently it has gone up more than 50%. Okay, and they are quite environment friendly companies also. Okay, so carpet manufacturing. If we try to really understand the supply chain characteristics, how we really look into their supply chain. So, we need to understand that their business, say carpet, how carpet is manufactured, what are the raw material they need. So, carpet needs mainly two types of raw material. One is wool and another is jute, main two. Okay. So, they get jute from where? India, Bangladesh. These are the two main supplier for jute across the world. Okay. So, that is the thing, jute processing is also happening here. So, and they get wool from New Zealand, okay, mainly New Zealand, Okay, few from European countries as well, but mainly it comes from New Zealand. So, to export oriented raw material, and it is being, and they have yarn manufacturing also in Britain, okay, and they they import yarn also from couple of countries, okay. Exactly I do not remember that which country they do it. So, that is why I was trying to really remember that. Do I still remember that? Answer is no. Okay. So, they have international network to get their raw material, okay. They process it. All the Indian requirement is been manufactured in India. So, how they have organized the supply chain, you can well see this. They had manufacturing in North America, but they have stopped that because there is no much market. So, they have from the they manufacture in Britain, and which goes to European market, okay, including Britain. But they are, again I repeat that they are high range manufacturer, okay, for the top range product and quite design product. So, design is the main part of it. Okay. So, how is the typical business? So, raw material you understand where from it is coming, and the supply side of this is the characteristics. You need to really understand the reality. How do you really get that? Okay, whether you develop long term relationship or not. So, what have they really done? They have developed long term relationship with the many suppliers from India and Bangladesh. Okay, how they got help by doing that? So, you might be remembering that in 2008 till 2012 there was a recession in the Western world, okay, and during that time all the airport was getting transformed in India. They got the tender. It was very difficult for them to really, they had a cash flow problem, because all these things you have to really deliver the carpet, then you get money back from the Indian airport authorities. Okay. So, what they did, they developed a long term relationship. Although there is a reception in the western part of the world, there is nothing in the eastern part. Okay. The suppliers were healthy, that means monetary, they are very good at that. So, they had given a long term loan to the British company, and with that, and they committed that as soon as they get money back from the airport authority, they would be, so they are giving credit to their customer. So, that is the way it worked. So, long term relationship helped the supply chain going. Okay. So, that worked out for them, and they did very good work, and they won almost all the airport transformation project from India, and they utilized that ability to contribute in the other part of the world as well. That helped them to really grow their business, and the critical success factor was developing a long term relationship with the Indian and Bangladeshi suppliers, and in that turn what they contributed. So, while developing a long term relationship, they translated the state of art technology or sustainable way of manufacturing or processing jute. Okay. In India, in Bangladesh, unhealthy procedure is being maintained. I will tell you the example that there are pictures. The frontline worker needs to really be spending their days in that deep of water, and in a manual way they used to really take out the jute fibers and all. So, that process was totally eliminated. More environmental friendly process have been adopted, and the labor wage has been standardized. So, everything has been done, and it helped to really improve the supply chain. So, you can see that reciprocity arrangement, how the supply chain is really being environmental and economically better off. So, that is sustainability. So, understanding characteristics of the supply chain, understanding issues and challenges, and then resolving it. So, if you can really analyze the things properly, then you get the solution from there. You need not to really use a complicated mathematics, but simple first principle could really help. So, here is an example. Okay. So, internal manufacturing also has improved through the better quality management approach, so that waste could be really minimized. Okay. Then what they have done in the demand side of it, because demand came from the competitive analysis in terms of the tendering, and that there was no long term relationship arrangement, but after sale services, was done through the long term relationship. Okay, it helped not only the supplier, okay, as for example the suppliers from India, but also manufacturer Binton Carpet, but also National Airport Authority, because what happened that carpet will worn out not in a uniform way across the surface, okay, it will vary, and unless you get a long term relationship with your supplier or your manufacturer, you will not be able to really deal with it. So, replacement and the cleaning and everything was organized by the manufacturer, which kept the airport intact over the periods, okay, and it is a win-win situation. So, understanding the customers, understanding the manufacturing, understanding the procurement and the contract arrangement is the key to make the supply chain a successful endeavor. Okay. So, what I would suggest your work would be, there are few examples which I would be using it to explain the other bit of it. So, I will skip it, and that is the mapping, that very high level mapping for the Binton Carpet. Okay, I am not explaining much, as I have already said, but it is the reflection of what I have just said to you using some block diagram, just showing the material flow. Sometimes you need to really show material and the information flow. We will try to really do it in your example. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So, you can say that here we have end customers, and then we have different type of procedure through which they develop customer relationship, okay, and the production, and how they relate it with the suppliers. Okay. Similarly, if you can in a group, 3 groups, you can identify a company that you think that okay, let us analyze it. What I would request you, if you are carrying your laptop, bring it, okay, from tomorrow or in the afternoon. I am not very sure that how far you are from your room, maybe far, but I would say maybe tomorrow you bring it with you. You can do a bit internet research. Okay, I will request them that whether you have these, because some of you might be having industry experience. Can you raise your hands who has seen a company, visited, have spent some time during engineering? Yeah, you have done it. Yeah. So, how about our faculty members, my colleagues? No, you have experience in industry. No, so we may not be required to be very accurate, but let's consider one company, then our understanding would be more realistic. Okay. So, suppliers, how the materials are moving from supplier to the customers, what way they are doing business, what could be the issues and challenges. I would help using my experience. Let's understand that. Let's try to really develop a diagram like this. Could we really identify how material flows, okay, how information flow, what are the issues and challenges, okay, not only from the economic perspective, but also from the environmental perspective. So, could we suggest through that a solution? You will find surprisingly that if you follow those steps, you are qualitatively in a position to suggest the solution. Now, what I understand that what we do the quantitative modeling, unless we have a better understanding of the entire concept of the system, we are not in a position to really develop the mathematical model. So, mathematical model is the second step of getting the solution. Okay. But first principle understanding is this very principle of the subject and modeling our concept using those principles. Okay. So, there are examples of other company, interesting company, and I have personal experience in working with them. I would be able to really suggest. I will keep on these, and I have few experience of the Indian companies, although I have picked up mainly the UK company to giving you how it works in the UK. But they are no way different actually, there are similarities. There are few differences also which I would mention. Okay. There are few examples of the Indian companies as well. Okay. So, we are here to do the hands-on exercise. In a group, we will identify few small and medium sized enterprises. Okay. Then we will map their supply chain the way I have shown you. We might need to really go a bit granulate steps, maybe strategic, not only strategic level, a bit of tactical level, so as to understand a micro movement of the material if possible, and then we derive the characteristics and issues and challenges. Okay, that is the first step. And I have lecture, we are here till 1 o'clock. So, what I will do, I will allow you say half an hour to get there. It will take a bit longer, but subsequent steps should be quicker. I would then quickly explain on what are the objective we set. It says how do we analyze the strategic fit. So, this is very much conceptually aligned, and then a bit supply chain way, understanding of supply demand balance. So, then we will bring the environmental perspective. So, let us target to really do it by 1 o'clock, and when we come back after lunch, then also I am with you, is not it? No, I am not with you. So, Professor Mahanty will be with you from 4:30. So, I would try to really finish it with the supply demand balance bit of it. Then we take up the things tomorrow morning. Okay, tomorrow again we will have interactive type of things. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Let us start working. You can take a short comfort break, okay, and come back and we will work in a group. Okay, so half an hour, and then you allow me another half an hour to explain the strategic fit bit of it. Okay, and tomorrow morning we will take up again. Okay, good. Now, we have formed, and all the groups have their project. We are working with it, and in this session we would try to really learn a bit more, very specific, how do we derive the balance between demand and supply. We know that two parameters we need to work on. Okay? One is demand and other is supply. And in supply chain management, we understand demand through competitive strategy and supply through supply chain strategy. And that is the thing we would be learning, how objectively we can define competitive strategy of any company, and how objectively we define supply chain strategy, and how do we develop the strategic fit between two things. Okay. So, competitive strategy, what is competitive strategy? Competitive strategy is connected to the product, okay, and product means product's attributes, okay, product specification, and the another aspect of the product is the customer's requirement, okay, in which situation customers want that, and this two forms competitive strategy. That means which market we are working on. Say this glass of water, okay. If this is being sold in a in supermarket, we can buy it, say how much is the cost here, 20 rupees, okay. But this bottle of water, if you buy it at the airport, it would be 100 rupees, but it is a different market, isn't it? So, market is different, customer's requirement is different, okay. So, convenience is given preference over other needs at the airport. So, that is the thing we need to really keep in mind while we set up the competitive strategy, and it is defined that competitive strategy is the relative to its competitors. The set of customers' needs a firm seeks to satisfy through its product and services. Okay. So, two aspects are very important: product's attribute, product specification, and the customer's requirement, and this is defined through implied demand uncertainties. Okay. So, that is the thing we would be learning. So, in one hand we are understanding demand through competitive strategy, and competitive strategy with two aspects. One is the specification of the product, another is the customer's requirement. Okay. So, in order to understand the strategic fit, we have to understand the other part of the supply chain, which is supply chain strategy. Okay. And supply chain strategies are connected to every aspect through which you try to satisfy the customer's requirement, okay, in line with the product specification. Again I repeat, competitive strategy means specification and the customer's requirement, and supply chain strategy, how efficiently we meet that. Okay. So, it starts from the distribution, manufacturing and the procurement, every aspect of it, and the strategic fit happen when there is a synergy between competitive strategy and supply chain strategy. Okay. So, any product, any services we handle across the supply chain, we need to identify that product attributes, product specification and what are the customer's requirement. So, we need to identify those variable that customers are giving preference on. Okay. Say as for example, quality of the product. Okay. Customization could be a quality, or specific products require attributes would be the specification. Okay. So, supposing a pen is used for writing, it cannot be really used for some other purpose. So, that is their requirement, but a pen being used for writing on a whiteboard and a plain paper would be different. Okay. Even the same pen that is being used for writing in a piece of paper could really vary. Say somebody, Prime Minister is signing a contract, you cannot really give Prime Minister 10 rupees pen, isn't it? So, you need to really have very expensive pen for it. So, the requirement would be varying. A pen we have seen in 3 Idiots, pen writing for writing in space will have a different specification, isn't it? So, that is the thing we need to really say. So, different customers for the same purpose is writing. Okay. So, the steps that we need to really follow in order to analyze that whether we have a strategic fit or not are understanding the customers and the supply chain uncertainties. Okay. And the second step is understanding the supply chain, and the third is analyzing the strategic fit. I would explain it a bit clearly. So, as I told you, the first step, the competitive strategy through the product specification as well as the customer's requirement, we could understand it through those attributes. Okay. You can well see that quantity of product needed to in each lot. Okay. They are very generic. You need to really understand your variables. So, the product, okay, or services that you are thinking for your business, you need to understand that what are the variables you would be keeping that customers are emphasizing on or customers are looking for, or you would tell customer to really get it, like the computer, MacBook has a different attribute today from the other type of laptop. Okay. So, you need to really tell our mobile phone, so many attributes. Now, it says that mobile phone has replaced everything. So, you do not need any camera today, okay. You do not need any GPS, okay. You do not need any radio, you do not need any Walkman today, everything is being served by a small equipment. Okay. So, it is not that customers will ask for, even the producer can really make it that understand the customer's requirement. Okay. So, you need to analyze the competitive strategy through those. So, here are few points like delivery period, price they are ready to really pay for, different type of attributes they are interested in, okay, delivery period, particular specification, that sort of thing. So, I have given you few product example. So, the first step is understanding the customers and supply chain uncertainty, and we need to really understand that how much difficulty the producer will have in order to satisfy that. Okay. So, that is being defined through demand uncertainty, which is the uncertainty of entire population of the product. But while we look into specific requirement of the customers, it becomes implied demand uncertainty. Okay. So, our objective is to derive the implied demand uncertainties of our product. So, implied demand uncertainties of this bottle of water, while it is being sold in retail, general retail, is much lower. That is why the cost is low. Okay. Makes sense? Implied demand uncertainty of this bottle of water while this is being sold at the airport is high. So, it is price is very high. Does it make sense? Okay. So, if you are eating same chicken in a posh restaurant, you are ready to pay more, but chicken being sold in the cafeteria in IIT Kharagpur would be much less expensive. So, that is the definition of implied demand uncertainty. So, our objective would be understanding our product and their specification, identifying few variables through which we can measure the implied demand uncertainty, and making a scale of 1 to 10, saying that with respect to all those variables, where are we? It could be if we pick up a customized computer, okay, quality wise computer itself by default is a high implied demand uncertainty, because it is being manufactured in a very complex way. So, supply chain uncertainty. So, it is higher. Delivery time of the custom, for customized computer, customers are okay to wait. That means implied demand uncertainty become lower. Okay. So, if you look into other things, returnability is another attribute you consider, then returnability would be a bit poorer, because you have ordered online and that. So, it goes a bit there. So, customers will be ranking it a bit lower. So, like that all the attributes, if you can derive and get the implied demand uncertainties, you can understand overall implied demand uncertainty of your product. So, accordingly you can decide that how much flexible your supply chain should be. Okay. So, we will see the supply side separately. So, is that implied demand uncertainty concept clear to you? Could you really feel that while we would be working with your project, then we would be able to really say that okay, these are the attributes through which we would be determining the implied demand uncertainty of our product, and we will see that, and you will observe that on various attributes within implied demand uncertainty, they are varying. Some of the attributes are highly higher implied demand uncertainty than other, and overall you need to really find out whether you are in the zone of high implied demand uncertainty or medium or lower. So, that is the way you are objectively deriving the competitive strategy, okay, and say that your competitive strategy is towards higher implied demand uncertainties. Okay. Same product. So, if I recap that, electronic products, as for example computer, by default, by specification, they are having higher implied demand uncertainty. Okay. And consumer product, because it has a less variety, less complicated to manufacture, they have higher, they are lower implied demand uncertainty. But same product, because of various customers' requirement, because of various uncertainty in the environment, they become higher implied demand uncertainty, like water being sold at the airport. Okay. And any contingency, any flood incident and all the food product would be higher implied demand uncertainty. Okay. So, demand supply balance. So, you have to really look at that. Customized product, by default they are all high implied demand uncertainties. Okay. Consumer product lower, like that. So, there are many examples. If you read through that, I would try to really avoid it. So, you can see that customers needs and product attributes make the implied demand uncertainties. Okay. Implied demand uncertainties are related to that, and these are the various variables that through which you could really understand implied demand uncertainties, and you can well see that various customers needs make the product higher implied demand uncertain or lower. So, you can well understand this. Again, this quite a few slides have been taken from the Sunil Chopra's book. Okay. If you read couple of chapters from there, you would be able to really understand the things better, but I try to really make it quicker and simpler. Does it make sense? Any quick question before we move to the supply side of it? Okay. So, you can well see, as I told you, you develop a implied demand uncertainty spectrum. You can make a scale if you like to really be a bit more objective. Otherwise, you can say that high, medium, low. So, you can well see from responsiveness to the price focus. So, in one side, if it is a high responsiveness, all the product related to electronic product, okay, will be considered as high, and very much consumable products are low, and in between you could really see that. So, automobile product, okay, automobile product would be a bit of higher side, and the steel manufacturing would be in the lower side, okay, not lowest one, lower side. So, it would be lower than the 50% by default, okay, but it depends on the, again you need to really amalgamate it through the customer's requirement, okay. In a various situation the requirement might be varying. Okay. So, there are theories through which you could really explain that low implied uncertain product and high implied uncertain product, how they behave in the market. Okay. As for example, product margin generally would be low for the lower implied demand uncertain product, like consumer product and that. Okay. So, you get low margin. So, you have to sell it in volume, then only you will get that. So, for your product you need to really think of whether it is a low implied demand uncertain product or high or medium, then accordingly you are expected to really get that result. Then accordingly you have to really design your supply chain. So, whether your supply chain would be efficient or responsive, it will, that is the thing we are getting at. Okay. So, average forecast error, average stock out rate, average force season end markdown would be this, a bit much lower than that. Yes, please.
So, but in his case there is no uncertainty, all the parameters are deterministic, so you don't need to use that.
No, you are slightly misunderstanding the deterministic and the probabilistic thing. I will come to that, do not get confused on that. But and uncertainty, you are right, uncertainty is connected to the probability and all, but here we are trying to really understand in a bit different way. Okay. What I mean to say that all the low implied demand uncertain product which are consumable goods, what we daily consume. Okay. So, you have better knowledge about their consumptions. Okay. Your forecasting error would be lower, and the sort of things I am trying to really say here. So, do not mix up for the time being, although there are relationship, as I could understand, I could really read your mind that where you are coming from. Okay. Just to hold that thought for the time being. Okay. Let us get into these. So, looking into the product attributes, you can really understand that how market will behave on that. So, how the customers will pick that up. So, a bread manufacturer would be able to clearly tell his day sell a bit closely than a computer manufacturer. That is the thing I am telling you, this is theory. Okay. So, you need to really be extra cautious if you are dealing with something, a new product. So, even if you look into the new product development, new product, same product, say a new car coming to the market, a new computer coming to the market will have higher implied demand uncertainty than an existing one. So, that is why Toyota Yaris took many years to get into the market. Now, while they are in the market, so their manufacturer knows the demand more clearly now than say 10 years before, while the product was just launched. So, quite likely that their finished product inventory would be higher. So, they need to really factor those while they develop their business model. Okay. So, that is the thing, that is the very much first principle understanding of it. Okay. So, the second step is understanding the supply chain, and similarly if you still remember the implied demand uncertainty spectrum from high to low, say 0 or 1 to 10, okay, 0 to 10. Similarly, we need to really understand the supply chain balance. How we understand it? Through efficiency, and responsiveness. So, whole idea of business, you understand the customer's demand requirement and you try to really meet efficiently. Whoever would be able to meet that, they are in the business. Whoever is not, they are outside, okay? They are gone. So, in order to really understand it, you need to understand how the supply chain is being designed, and while you are starting your business, how do you really do that? Okay. So, we need to understand a spectrum here as well. It's what it's called here is the efficiency responsiveness trade off, and which is explained through this diagram. Okay. X axis you have cost, y axis you have responsiveness. Okay. High to low cost and low to high responsiveness. So, look into, if you have a company, all the frontier companies are in this line. Okay. So, they are in the right balance between the cost and the responsiveness. Responsiveness is the customer's requirement and meeting that requirement, and cost is the cost that you incur in order to meet that. Okay. So, a company is here, supposing is here, is a frontier company, that means they are the best in the market, but their responsiveness, that means what customers want, okay, is here, and the cost of doing it here. So, low and low here. Okay. And if the responsiveness is very high, say a computer manufacturer, so they need to really have a customized computer and that. So, they need to really addressing the customized computer, that means all customers requirement, but they are highly expensive. Okay, they have to be. They have a flexible manufacturing system, they have a very advanced information system allowing customers to customize it and all sort of things. That is why they are here. Now, a company which are here within the frontier, okay, inside the frontier, then they could achieve both responsiveness and efficiency by moving towards that. Okay. So, if you are not really top in the market, you are trying to really achieve efficiency and responsiveness, you can achieve both doing it. But if you like to really be either efficient or more responsive, you need to really sacrifice one. So, you have to have the trade off, but if you are not, then you may not require to trade off. So, while you are analyzing a company, you discover company could really do improve in both. So, suggest them what are the things you could really. So, with that understanding of the theory, what you need to really do for your supply chain, you try to find out whether you are working in efficient zone or the responsive zone. So, if you look into the spectrum, you can well see that highly responsive supply chain is Dell, example of it, because they manufacture customized computer, makes sense. Okay. And integrated steel plant, where you have to really produce in volume, you need to really be very, very stringent. Even the car manufacturing, automotive industry should be very, very efficient. Okay. I know about Jaguar Land Rover, which is owned by Tata now and based in Britain, and very frontier company. Okay. They are off-road loading performance is very, very high. Okay. They are best and very comparable with the German manufacturer and the Japanese manufacturer. Okay. So, their production rate is they produce 300 car in a day from a manufacturing plant from the scratch. Okay. They would be even the just steel plate, they would be processing the steel plate, everything would be assembled on real time basis, and in altogether the car remain, even the finished product remain only 2.5 hours in their premises, they are out. If they remain more, then they incur cost. Okay. It is very expensive. So, that is the way it works. So, you need to really have a completely rigid manufacturing process, no failure, okay, very quick, both manual and automatic check, and that it goes, everything is perfect. So, it needs to be really very, very efficient. this here. Okay. You can, although it is showing here, but most of the car manufacturer work a bit efficient zone, otherwise they won't be able to, they are in the market. So, that is the way these things are really designed. Yes, please.
Product is costly, can I assume that it is highly efficient?
No, not that way. Cost comes with what? Cost will come with the more customization. So, you cannot really compare a cost of a car and cost of the computer, okay, customized computer. So, these are different product, but if you look into, again I will give you example of Jaguar Land Rover. Normal Jaguar car may be say 70,000 pound, but if it is customized, it could be another 10 figure increased to that. Okay, so, it is very, very expensive. It says that David Beckham as a customized Land Rover, which was which costed him 400,000, okay, where same car could be less than 100,000. So, it is 4 times more expensive. So, more customization you are making it, more you are going toward the responsiveness, because whatever customers want is there. So, you are incorporating that, your then you can well see that your implied demand uncertainty is hard. You need to really have a flexible manufacturing things. Okay. So, depending on that you are doing it. So, you need to really understand in the responsiveness spectrum, similarly to the implied demand uncertainty spectrum, where your supply chain is. So, again I repeat, you analyze the supply chain considering the demand and supply separately, okay. Demand competitive strategy, understand the product attributes, understand the customer's requirement through few variables, and get your implied demand uncertainty altogether, and separately analyze your supply chain by looking into efficiency and responsiveness, place them, and then together you look in by using this diagram. Okay. So, zone of strategic fit would be in this range. So, place them implied demand uncertainty and responsiveness spectrum, efficient and these. So, ideally your supply chain should be in between. That means, if you are dealing with low demand uncertain product, you need to really have efficient supply chain. If it is other way around, then you are in the zone of outside the zone of the strategic fit, you have to bring it back. So, your analytical tool would be get those variables sorted, understand where you are, use number and then analyze it and see that whether they are aligned. If they are not aligned, if they are up or down, you need to adjust this. Okay. So, I will tell you that what happened, business is dynamic. So, even if while you have started your business, you are okay, because everybody will, you are starting your business, you are looking into if your product is lower, medium or higher implied demand uncertainty, accordingly your supply chain should be designed. But because you do not have any control over your business environment, there would be quite likely that will affect your supply chain, because you have less control over your customers than your supply chain, isn't it? So, your supply chain, your implied demand uncertainty depends on the customers. So, while you have started your business, by default your implied demand uncertainty would be higher. So, you need to really have a bit flexible supply chain, so that you can adjust it. While you get adjusted, then you continue with it, but you need to be flexible enough so as to really accommodate. Small and medium sized companies needs to really be more flexible than the bigger company, because their markets are uncertain. Okay, you may be required to really move with it, but bigger companies like car manufacturer, same Jaguar Land Rover during recession period, from 300 cars per day to went to 300 cars per month. So, what they will do, as I told that automotive industry, your supply chain is quite rigid in order to make it efficient. You cannot make the flexibility, otherwise you lose time and your production rate is low, and if your production rate is low, it is not going to the market, and while it does not go to the market, because there is no customers for it. So, they have a good procurement management. Okay, they do not sell the car directly to the end customers, they sell it to the retailer, and they develop a very good procurement management with the retailer, so that retailer will buy the car. So, production will remain same. Okay. so that their efficiency remains within the system. So, what is happening, inventory, finished product inventory is being built in the retailer premises, and how retailer manages that they will even sell the car in break even. They will give their employer to employees to use the car, and they will make it a bit slightly second hand. They develop lots of changes within the supply chain. So, you cannot make a structural change of the supply chain, that is the manufacturing. And one easy way they manage the business is they fire many people. That is why you will find in recession many people from the industry will be sacked. Okay, that is the easiest way to adjust the supply chain to reduce the cost, and they make the balance and make the strategic fit closer to possibility. If they can't do it, they go to administration, company vanishes. So, that is the way things work. So, we need to really do, our next exercise would be I think I am not really meeting you after lunch, but in the due course, how do we really look into the strategic fit? I think we have reached into the next level. So, first level we looked into issues and challenges, mapping the supply chain. The next level is you need to understand your competitive strategy by specification and the customer's requirement, getting all the variables, and placing your product on the implied demand uncertainty spectrum. Similarly, supply chain responsiveness spectrum, and developing this diagram to analyze that whether you have a strategic fit. If you have strategic fit, you are fine up till now. Okay, you need to constantly doing it in a real time scenario if you are in the business environment. If you think that you are not aligned, you need to address that. You need to say how do you really balance it. Okay? Or if you find this is okay, but you have still some issues and challenges that you have to keep your eyes on. Okay? You suggest that okay, if there is a quite likely this will change because of the business dynamics. So, that would be our address. This is our contingency plan. So, we will work on that as a next exercise as we proceed. So, I will conclude by saying how do you really look into the environmental parameter here. So, you can have a third dimension, or you can bring it as a customer's requirement, although which is coming from the policymaker, or looking the things as a third dimension and third dimensional trade off. Okay? So, again still we are in the conceptual level, we are not in a mathematical modeling yet, okay, which some of you might be interested in, but we are getting there. We are at least identifying few variables here, okay, right from the first exercise. Okay. Any question? Yeah.
Sir, what is the difference between implied demand uncertainty and demand uncertainty?
That's the thing I wanted to really say. Demand uncertainty covers